Hi, and welcome to another podcast. Things are going crazy. Whoa, you guys seem to like this stuff. So thanks for downloading and watching, and remember to forward it. Today we have one of my favorite people, who is Mohammed Zoabi. Mohammed, welcome. Now, if you can't see him, by the way, he's in his pajamas having a cigarette. I love you. You're hysterical. So where are you speaking to us from?
I'm trying my best. Well, good. I was about to say good morning, but then I remember it's almost 11 and that you're going to judge me.
So and I woke you up at 11:30. I'm jealous.
You technically did wake me up. Listen, I think that I think it's a good sign if people are not that functional in the morning, because it means that you gotta rest a little bit and you gotta sleep a little bit in the morning. So I'm not really a morning person. But that's what you're here for, to energize me in the morning.
So how do we introduce you? We could put a lot of labels. We could put Israeli Arab, Muslim, Zionist, gay activist, Israel. What else did I put? How do you define yourself?
Did you forget any card, or pull out all the cards?
I think all of them. Let's go for it.
Listen, I think the fact that I think I'm a very dual, or whatever the other word to dual or more than dual is, but I think that my entire life I've been this and that and that. I've been multiple things, and I think only recently I started to be able to actually identify these different cards that I can pull, or these different identities that I have that are an integral part of me. So being Israeli is part of me because I was born here, because this is my home country, because this is the only place I can actually call home. The fact that I'm Arab is because I'm culturally and ethnically and historically Arab, and I speak Arabic and Hebrew at home, and that is part of my identity and part of my experience here in Israel as well. I came out of the closet when I was 16, so I realized, oh shit, that's another minority I'm part of. And so I don't know, really. It really depends on the day. It depends on how I woke up, and it depends on how I'm feeling. Sometimes I hate the Arabs, sometimes I hate the Palestinians, sometimes I hate the Israelis, sometimes I hate the gays, sometimes I love everyone and I just want to sing Kumbaya with everyone. But yeah.
For you, what's your Israel? What's Israel for you?
Israel for me is home before anything else. And in addition to all of that, Israel could be to, I guess, I don't know how to say it in English, in not a broken English, but I'm going to use my broken English anyways, because English is my third language and I can make mistakes in English. I think it's like a thing that has two faces. On the one hand, there's a lot of beautiful and amazing things that I adore and love. And on the other hand, there's a lot of things that I'm just like, oh my God, give me a break. Are you kidding? Like, for example, when you look on like the political catastrophe, seriously, catastrophe. This is like the systematical catastrophe that we're having right now in our country. We're going to our fourth elections in a month. We're unable to create a government. We're unable to resolve our inner issues. It just makes you wonder, if we didn't have so many outside threats, would we even be able to survive? Like, would we even be able to like hold our things together? I wanted to say another word, but I'm trying to be polite. Like, what is like? So that's on one hand, and on the other hand, you got a lot of beautiful things that really make you proud of this country and of who you are, and of the people that make up this country, whether it be our social solidarity, whether it be our yazamut. How do you say yazamut in English? Initiative.
Yeah.
Initiative, technology, startup nation. I mean, we're still using facts, okay? Like,
yeah, I mean, do you get? Look, you've been in the forefront of what they. what they call Hasbara, or Israeli public relations. And you kind of fell into it a little bit. For those of you who are not familiar with Muhammad's story during the, as a prelude to the Second Intifada, there was kidnapping of 3 boys, which actually more or less was one of the reasons for the Second Intifada. And you went online and condemned it. And as a result, had to basically go in hiding and leave the country for a while. With the help of our friend Kay Wilson, who we've also spoken to here, who's a victim of or a survivor of a terrorist attack. What was that whole period for you? Because I mean, like the sense is now you've moved on. That period of life, what was going on there? What the hell?
So first of all, it all happened in 2014, not in the Second Intifada.
Sorry. Okay.
No, it's okay. I was like 2.
You weren't even born in the Second Intifada.
Hello, no. I was born in 1998. The Second Intifada.
Okay, that's it. We're over. We're finished.
So listen, I think.
Sorry, the war. Yeah.
I think when I look back at it, I think that it all started when the 3 teenagers were kidnapped. I was a teenager at the time myself. I was 16 or 15. And I remember how naive I was, because I was so angry that children my age could actually be victimized and used as a tool in this conflict, or as a way to pursue some sort of national goal, and for me that was out of line for me as a kid, as a very naive kid who's still trying to figure out the reality that we live in. That was like, wow, if that happened to Eyal, Gilad, and Naftali, that could happen to me and to my friends and to people I know.
How old were you when this happened?
I think I was 15. Yeah. I was in the 9th grade.
Yeah.
And it really I did feel into it, as you said, because I didn't really. I remember the day I decided to upload that video that went viral, and I was this geeky kid speaking 3 languages, and I'm like determined, bring children back, and it was really authentic. And I think that's the reason why it went viral. I mean, all you need to do is, you're making fun of my pajamas now. You should check out my pajamas back then.
Pajamas seem to be an important part of your life. Maybe we should add that to your list of identity.
I mean, listen, how does the saying go? I don't know if there's a saying like that, but you make great things from your pajamas or whatever.
I think you just made that up.
That up, totally. So when that happened, I was I wasn't really expecting it to happen, because when I uploaded that video, I had like 70 friends on Facebook. I wasn't that popular at all, and like I didn't think anybody would care. I thought that only my close friends will see it, and like I'll have an argument with, like, I don't know, my friends who agree and my friends who disagree, and that'll be it. But no, I went to.
It's like the stories are true that you got death threats and you had to hide. I mean, there's a whole story on the internet. Really, I mean, this happens to real people.
It does. I think that I remember when I woke up the other day after I posted that video, I woke up to my mom's screams. I woke up to my mom being like, "What have you done, Muhammad?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
I'm not sure it was in that accent, because that was a very British accent.
What have you done, son?
Good God!
It was more like this. Show Muhammad.
That's more authentic, yeah.
That's how more it sounded like, yeah. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Check your Facebook." So I go on my Facebook, and it's like, I'm not like, I swear, if I'm like, but like thousands of like messages, responses, angry people who support, people who are like, "What the hell is this?"
Did it ever get physical? Were you actually threatened, or was it all online?
So it did get physical, for example, with my mother. My mom was physically attacked because of me at some point. She was attacked in our house. And, there were a lot of cases or a lot of times where you thought, oh my God, it's going to get physical. Like it's going to get,
right.
This is serious. And I remember the first time I realized that it's serious was 2 days after I posted that video, when my mom and dad, who are divorced, got together. And
they were that bad, huh?
And they were trying to figure out what to do. And I'm like, oh shit, if I got my divorced parents to sit down together with my stepdad, that's
bad.
That means that, shit is real.
Wow. In hindsight, you were 15, 16, and now in your early 20s. What do you take away from that experience?
Not to post trilingual videos.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. It's like, think before you post.
Oh my God. No, listen, I think that the first actually maskana, what's the word?
Agreement or conclusion.
Conclusion. The first conclusion was that we can have an impact. We as individuals in our era today, in our, in the era of social media and in the internet, we can actually have a say. We can have an impact. If it's important enough to us, it somehow is gonna, or it could have an impact, or it could make people talk. And when I think about it now, despite all of the challenges that came after, and despite the fact that I had to leave the country for a few months to, let things calm down, I think that overall, a lot of the things that I'm doing today, a lot of the places that I got to today, or a lot of the people that I know today, I would have not known if I didn't,
right. That's crazy. So good things come out of bad things, if you like. Let's talk a little bit about your community. You're a member of about 5 different communities, so we'll have to be methodical.
Yeah, which one? Which community are you talking about?
Okay. So let's start with the Israeli Arab community. First of all, whenever I speak to Israeli Arabs, and I know it's a cliche, Israeli or Arab or Israeli Arab, etc. How much are you perceived as Israeli in the Arab world? And what's the difference?
I think that's a great question, Neil. I think that I recently actually, I remember when the peace agreement the normalization pacts were signed with the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain. I think that for the first time, I remember I was watching TV, and I remember when it happened all, and I don't know if you remember, but it was all sudden. Suddenly, I remember the UAE ambassador wrote this, article in Idiot, I think a year ago or 2 years ago, about how, the UAE is ready to normalize relations if Israel gives up annexation or whatever was relevant back then. Political promises was relevant back then. And I remember when I first read that, I was like, oh wow, I didn't even give it a second thought. I didn't take it seriously too much. And I remember when I was laying down on my couch, and suddenly on the news, they announced that there's an agreement with the UAE and then Bahrain. I was like, oh, does that mean that Arabs are going to be trendy now in Israel? Does that mean that we're going to be cool now? Does that mean that I'm not going to have problems renting an apartment, or, people are not going to look at me, weirdly when I say my name, and they're not going to be like, oh my God, you don't look like an Arab. So no, that hasn't changed yet. But I think that the best example to, I think, the double tragedy of Arab Israelis is that when, a few months after that happened, there was an Israeli Arab football player that was sent he was invited to the UAE by their national football team or something to play there. And that football player, whose name is, I think, Dia Sabeh, he's pretty known here in the football field. he took a picture with an Egyptian, public figure. He and other Israeli figures like Omer Adam and other famous Israelis. And I remember when I saw how the Egyptian media and Egyptian social media reacted to it, and how that football player was portrayed in the Egyptian media, as this Israeli who is, trying to infiltrate, and how this Egyptian, public figure is taking a picture with Israelis and blah, blah, blah. Right. And I was like, oh my God, they don't even care.
Right.
They don't even care that he's a Muslim. They don't even care that he's an Arab. For them, if you're from Israel, you're Israeli. But then on the other hand, in Israel, we're always seen as Arabs. We're always seen, even if we're people try to see us as Israelis, or people say that they see us as part of an integral part of Israeli society, they always still look at us as Arabs, and they always want to hear our perspective as Arabs, or they always they're waiting to every time you meet someone new, it's like a whole new process from the beginning, because people here are just so unable to sometimes look beyond who you are or what community you belong to. And it's not only about Arabs in Israel, by the way. It's
everybody. If you're an English speaker, you have to be an American. I came here to become an American, or Russian. You're Russian if you're Ukrainian, Polish.
Oh my God, the Ukrainians and the Russians. I have so many. Listen, I grew up in Natzrat. Sorry, Nofa Galil. They changed it. It's more. And I grew up. Nofa Galil is full of Russians and Ukrainians, and a lot of people who who were either descendants of Holocaust survivors, who escaped East Europe and came to Israel. And I remember that other than the Holocaust, that was an integral part of my childhood experience, growing up and hearing a lot about it. The other argument was the difference between Russians and Ukrainians. I remember that my Ukrainian friends would get so offended when Israeli, when Tzavarim, Israelis would call them Russians. They would be like, no, we're not Russians, we're Ukrainians. And it actually got me interested in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. And I started to actually identify the differences between the two cultures and the languages and whatever. Even though foreigners, they're similar. So it's not only the Arabs. It's literally, it's used against everyone. And honestly, I have to say, it doesn't always come from a bad place. It doesn't always come from a negative place. Israelis are just, they're chasrei tact. They don't know how.
They're not tactful.
Yeah, they don't have manners as much as, I don't know, British people do, or other countries do. We're tachlis. We're right on point. If we're curious, we're gonna let you know that we're curious. Listen, I remember I was a kid growing up in Nazareth, an area full of tourists. I remember I would, finish school, I would go wander around in the old city Nazareth, looking for tourists to talk with them. If you wonder how my English got so good.
And your modesty. And your modesty.
And my modesty, yes. My English is so good. I'm allowed to say that. Should I pull out my cards? The Arab, the Israeli, I don't know.
Whatever. All right, let's move on. Let's move on a little bit. What's happening, I think, is interesting with the Israeli Arab community. Is I think there's a change, and I know that the community is split, and I'm not sure. This idea of, maybe we can deal with Netanyahu. And maybe what we need to do is say, hey, we're a political voice. And you hear some of the leaders saying, why do we have to always rely on the Israeli left? Because the Israeli left doesn't exist at the moment. It's either going to be a right-wing government or a very right-wing government. So we might as well say we can play with the devil if he delivers. What's your take on that? I'm not sure. Is it remarkably naive? Are they about to do a Benny Gantz? Or are they, finally, they're playing the political game?
Look, that's a great question, because I think that Netanyahu is, whether you like him or not, or don't like him, Netanyahu is an experienced politician. He's been in the field for decades, and he knows what he's doing, and he knows how to play the game. And Netanyahu knows how to play the game when it comes to the Arab community now. What happened is that in the recent years, we've seen that the project that's called the Joint Arab List is just dysfunctional. It's not working. And the reason it's not working is because the Joint List, as opposed to what many people seem to think about it here in Israel, is not one party. It's not one ideology. It's 4 different parties who've decided to combine forces together to increase the only thing that they have in common, or to support the only agenda, the one and only agenda that they have in common, and that is the Arab agenda. Other than the shared Arab agenda, you have liberals, communists, secularists, Islamists, centrists, and others in that joint together. And what we've been seeing in the last 2 years is a heated debate on religion and state issues.
Right.
For the first time in Israel's history, the Arab minority started to take a stance on LGBTQ issues, on secular versus religious issues in the state.
How much is that an issue, the LBGTQ, who discriminate against people with dyslexia? I have to tell you, I can never get that out and get the letters right. Is how much is that a... you do realize that's 5 cigarettes you've had in about 30 minutes there. Not to say anything.
No, it's the same cigarette.
Oh, it's the same cigarette that keeps going out.
Yeah, because I roll it because I'm such a hippie.
Yeah. Is that another card of yours?
I live in Florentine in Tel Aviv.
Oh, really? Seriously? So hold on, in Tel Aviv. How much is it? There's a LGBTQ community of Israeli Arabs? What? Can we add a WTF to that? Like, what's going on there?
We'll probably add at some point. Look, I think that when I came out 7 years ago, I can tell you that I never expected things to change so fast, because when I came out, or prior to the moment I came out, I felt totally alone. I didn't think that there's a present Arab LGBTQ community around me. And in the last 3 years, things have been changing. It started with the public rage that we saw following the stabbing of an LGBTQ teenager, an Arab LGBTQ teenager in Tel Aviv, by his own brother. And for the first time, the Arab public demanded that the Arab politicians talk about the issue. And for the first time, we saw public politicians, especially from either left-wing parties like Hadash and Meretz, or I guess more centrist Arab parties or Arab political figures in the Arab community, who started to talk about the issue and condemn the homophobic attack. And it was like a midon chalaklak, like it happened. Things escalated quickly. Right. To the point where the members of the Joint List decided to join the left in efforts to, for example, prohibit conversion therapy, or support surrogacy laws, or civil marriage that would include gay marriage. And that triggered, an angry response from the Islamic movement that made about 4 seats out of the 15 seats in the Joint List. And the split started then. And then Netanyahu started flirting with the Islamic movement, the Muslim Brotherhood branch in Israel, one must say. And when that happened, you mentioned Benny Gantz, and they already became Benny Gantz too, or Benny Gantz, the non-white Arab version. Right. As if we're talking about Mansour Abbas, the leader of the Islamic Party, when the communication first started with Netanyahu, he sounded very optimistic. He thought that he's going to be able to influence Netanyahu, and he thought that he's going to he's going to have an impact. But then Netanyahu, he came out of the blue from somewhere else, and he directly started speaking to the Arab community, and out of the blue, Mansour Abbas became a competitor to Netanyahu. Netanyahu says that nowadays. Now, the interesting thing is that a year ago, the entire joint list was illegitimate for Netanyahu because Netanyahu knew that his political foes might use the joint list to form a government without him. And so he made sure to make us, illegitimate and remind us of how extreme the joint list is. And now when Netanyahu might actually need the joint list or the Arab votes to reach the 61 or the desirable 61, he's willing to entirely change his approach to the Arab community, and that's what we're seeing recently.
Where if credit's due, you have to give credit to Netanyahu that he's the only politician that can play with the Israeli Arab vote and at the same time Kahanists in the same coalition.
And in addition to that, that's true. It's funny that at the same time he can work with the Islamists and the Arab minority, and at the same time flirt with the Kahanists and the ultra right. But the thing is that one must give Netanyahu credit for is the fact that he, if you look at his foes, at his political rivals, the liberal rivals, they've all been talking for years about the importance of coexistence and working with the Arab minority and integrating the Arab minority. And, they've been talking and talking and talking. And when they had the opportunity to actually do something about it, they were always scared. They always didn't want to be, categorized as, leftists or Arab loving. And here's Netanyahu. He comes out of the blue, and out of the blue, Bibi starts working with the Arabs, and the Arab vote, the Arab vote and the Arabs politically become legitimate suddenly. And suddenly everybody now wants to work with the Arabs. And suddenly everybody realizes, we cannot form a government without, 20% of the population if we can't get them recruited to our side.
Will he get the Israeli Arab vote?
Look, we got to remember that the Arab population in Israel is a society. It's a society within a society. It's a society that is made up of Muslims and Christians. It's a society that is made up of rural and urban people. It's a society that's made up of secularists and religious people, and it's also a society made up of leftists and right wings. And Mansour Abbas says it. He says it clearly. We're right wing. We have more values to share with the Israeli right, the Jewish right, than the left. And I think that slap in the face to the left is why they suddenly woke up, because they suddenly realized, the Arabs are not in our pocket. We can't just use them whenever we want and throw them away whenever we want. And that's why I think that yes, Netanyahu, Bibi can actually he can take 1, 2, or maybe 3 seats from the Arab community, no doubt. There's a lot of people in the Arab community who are not that different from Netanyahu's Jewish base, who view him as this leader who's protecting Israel and who's making sure that Israel is prosperous, and who think that Israel will die the day after Netanyahu leaves, like we didn't survive or we didn't exist before him. So absolutely, as mind-blowing it might sound to people, yes, there are right-wing Arabs, there are conservative Arabs who don't want, gay marriage here, who don't want separation between church and state, who don't want other things that the center left might do, and they see Netanyahu and his right-wing bloc or allies, as potential political allies, despite the different, despite the disagreements on
which explains why we often see Haredim and Israeli Arab parties voting together on certain issues such as conscription and so on and so forth.
Look, as an Israeli Arab, I can tell you the solidarity I have with my fellow ultra-Orthodox Israelis is much higher than the solidarity I have with, my neighbor here, my leftist liberal neighbor here in Tel Aviv, because
that's because he's vegetarian.
I mean, there's a yes.
Is he vegetarian?
Because he's vegetarian, because he's gay, because whatever. But the solidarity.
What's going on with your neighbor? Whoa!
I mean, come on, it's Tel Aviv. What are you expecting?
Oh, I'm sorry.
But the solidarity that we have as an Arab minority with the ultra-Orthodox minority is a solidarity that is that is rooted in our experience here as minorities in Israel. I have a lot of things to say to the ultra-Orthodox, especially the ultra-Orthodox political leadership in Israel. The way, they're using Bibi, and the way they're pursuing their own particularist interests on the expense of the national interests. But the people, the community, the 1.3 million ultra-Orthodox people who live in Israel are victims of a political elite that is, I would say, I'm not in a place to speak for them, but I would say a political elite that doesn't always work for their best PR or interest publicly. But at the same time, they have to deal with a wider Israeli society that doesn't exactly sympathize with them, doesn't exactly like them. And we see this with COVID now. Right. Suddenly we realize that, we cannot actually ignore the ultra-Orthodox and the Arabs. I don't know if you remember, Netanyahu once said that without the Arabs and the ultra-Orthodox, our situation is good. Talking about Israel and how Israel, without the Haredim and the Arab community, doesn't have as much poverty, doesn't have as much problems. And what he said back then, when he didn't need the ultra-Orthodox, reflects the general Israeli point of view on the ultra-Orthodox community. They view them as a burden, and that's exactly the way the right wing views the Arabs, or not all the right wing, some parts of the right wing.
You're in Tel Aviv. You're not in Nazareth. You're not in the Galil. You're not anywhere but liberal, vegetarian, vegan.
Come on, where do you expect me to live?
Tel Aviv. But why?
Because I think Tel Aviv is it's not a question of why I'm not in Nazareth. It's a question of why I'm in Tel Aviv. And I think that Tel Aviv has its special spirit in Israel and in the Middle East in general. I mean, it's a chill.
What spirit?
Yeah, I mean, you could say the gay liberal spirit, the hippie liberal spirit, the fact that you're anonymous in Tel Aviv. Nobody cares whether you decide to I don't know, wear a skirt or put something weird on your head and walk around the street. And I mean, we just celebrated Purim, and I was dressed up as Aladdin with my friend.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram account. Very, very worried.
Yeah, it was all over. It was all over, especially because some Israeli leftists think that they have a right to tell me whether I can wear a costume in Purim or not, like Gidon Levy, right, who literally wrote an entire article about how Arabs cannot and should not be part of A, B, C, D, and you're just like, am I missing something? Are you an Arab? Like,
right.
Why are you speaking for me? Like, why are you deciding what I can do and what I cannot do? Talking about why some members of the Israeli Arab community are just sick of the center left in Israel. And that patronizing approach to us. So I think that Tel Aviv is the reason why Tel Aviv is so special to me is because there's a special spirit in Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv, functions. I mean, in Israel, it's called the bubble or the state of Tel Aviv, because Tel Aviv really is an I don't know how to say the word in English. It's an antithesa.
An antithesis of.
Yeah, an antithesis of the, I guess, the national government or the national government approach.
Well, they always talk about two states.
Not only that they talk about two, not only that they're leftist, but they're Tel Aviv is it's a city that has values that I can relate to. It's a city that. Systematically, it tries, or at least to fulfill, I guess, values that are inclusive enough for me to actually feel part of. And unfortunately, that is something that I don't feel everywhere else in the country. Whether because I'm gay in Nazareth, or whether because I'm an Arab in Jerusalem, or whether because I'm a liberal in the periphery, whatever it is, Tel Aviv is, I think, at least at this point, the only place I can actually feel comfortable in. And that's the only reason why I'm paying the high as fuck rent here that we're paying.
And on that, I'm going to say thank you for joining us. A great way to sum up. And get back to bed. You're in your pajamas, man.
Thank you so much for this conversation, and
It was great.
and we hope
Hopefully we'll see each other again soon.
absolutely.
Bye.